Welcome to the Patreon site, patreon.com/the 0%, as in the name of the book that you may find on Amazon. I am going to kind of briefly talk about how to navigate where do you begin when joining Patreon to start the process in obtaining zero tax liability, whether you are a W-4 employee or should I say W-2 employee. You fill out the W-4 and then you get a W-2 at the end of the year. Or if you are a W-9 individual contractor receiving a 1099 at the end of the year. How are you supposed to operate so you can keep all of your money, federal and state taxation, keep all of that? What are you supposed to do with that money, and how to make it grow so that you can obtain or put yourself in a position where you can pass it on to the next generation? That's what this is all about. There are some benefits and perks that goes along with this. For example, when it comes to filing taxes, when you do a process such as this and creating your foreign express trust, right? When you create the foreign express trust, you're going to be registered with the Internal Revenue Service on what's called the zero file list. Now, that means your entity is already at a level of 0% tax. So if there are expenses that the trust has, or any other business that the trust owns has expenses, it can then claim those expenses for a specific refund. Now, that's what I consider a bonus. Not necessary, but it's nice to have when you're ready to use it. That's not the sole purpose of this Patreon community. It's only about trying to protect your wealth, to pass it on to the next generation, and to protect all of your assets, including your estate, you, who you are. And I'm even talking about being manipulated by all of these codes and statutes that are out there to control you. We want to get you away from that so that you have better control of your life. That is the whole purpose. Now, disclosure, the pricing as of August of 2022, it is what it is today that you will see here on the screen, but it is subject to change at any given point in time. If you were to sign up today and participate in these courses and having access to the videos and templates, that is locked in for you. People coming in after this video and the price may be higher or lower, that price is only for you. Okay, depending on the market, depending on inflation and all these other different factors, the internal needs of my team, all of those will play a factor for pricing. That's private information to my organization, but I'm just telling you now, that's the disclosure for pricing. We also do offer a service where we do it for you. Everything. And that will also give you the opportunity to still be a part of the Patreon community, because we still want you to have access to all of the content that we are putting out privately and exclusively, because local laws are always changing. So I am always reading new information, studying new information, and applying that for people who are to come much later. Because as we change and understand these things, trust me, people on Capitol Hill will change laws to put a roadblock. They're already doing it, but we're still getting past it. So I want you guys to still be a part of that if you become a private client. For the information on that and how to do that, please reach out to my assistant. You can contact her at 951-394-1775, 951-394-1775, and she will gladly break down that process for you. So now let's look over here. Once you come to this site, it will then take you to the first page, and you now can select a tier. I have broken down the courses into 4: freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. So as you come down, each price for each one is an a la carte pricing. I want you to start at the freshman right here. Let's go over what you're going to get. Inside of the freshman course, we're discussing common law, equity, and chancery court rules, and breaking down what an express trust is. I have to give you an introduction to trust. Some people don't know what trust is all about. All they've heard is LLCs, partnerships, and corporations, and maybe even sole proprietorships. But a trust is very important. You have to understand that the United States looks at a trust like it does you and me, an actual person, even though it requires two or more people to begin one. You guys come together. Just like in the Bible, it says, where there are two or more, there will I be in the midst. Right? The entire Bible is talking about putting together a trust. And I actually talk about that in my other channel, The Bible Explained. In Romans 10, I believe Romans 13, it talks about the organization of government and why people are taxed. They are taxed because they are not in what's called an ordinance. And the ordinance here is a trust. If you are outside of trust, you are taxed at the highest. If you are within trust, you are taxed anywhere 5% and low, all the way to 0%, which is the goal, and you can obtain it. So I'm going to be breaking down what an express trust is, where does it come from, why do you need it, why it's different from spendthrift trust, living trust, why it's not really called an irrevocable or revocable trust. Your express trust will be irrevocable. That is a subcategory of it. Okay, some people think that, well, I have a revocable trust. Isn't that good enough? That is a subcategory of the type of trust you have. Okay, you have to understand the difference there. So we will go over that. I also will show you how to fill out the SS4 form, because you are going to conduct an interview with the IRS agent in their foreign department. Okay, it's very important to know that. We're going to go over the Uniform Commercial Code, the UCC law. We have to go over how to put together DBAs in your county. So that way they know what is yours, or what is the trust, and what is theirs. Ultimately, we want to take everything from them. It is not theirs. They cannot do anything against your birth name or every derivative of your birth name. They cannot do anything against your estate. All of your income that you have earned is classified under your estate, and we must reclassify that over to the jurisdiction of your foreign express trust. Very important. If you are a W-4 employee or a W-9 employee, I will talk about and show you how to correct those forms with them and what to do with the difference of monies that you are already used to being taxed on. You're now going to be able to keep that money, and you need to do something with it, right? This is how you get to a position where you're no longer a slave employee. I say slave not to be facetious or funny, but if you are using the benefits of the benefits and privileges of the United States, you are using the social security number or the social insurance number, if you have a number from Canada. That classifies you as an employee. It really does. Why? You may not know this, but most employers out there, when you sign up to be an employee, they take out what's called dead man insurance policies on you. Why do they call it dead man? Because they're utilizing your ens legis, your straw man, the corporate fictitious name, which is that first, middle, last name, the all capital name. If you're here, you know about that already. So, United States is a federal corporation, and they have sub-corporations working for them and employees working for them, generating revenue such as taxes. If you want to come out of that, this is how you're going to do that. Okay. This is how you're going to do that. So in the freshman tier at $99 per month, you will have access to all of the videos that are here that walks you through it step by step, 24/7 access to those videos, including the templates, and access to our Saturday classes, the Q&A classes that we have if you have questions in regards to the courses. And I love being there to talk with you guys. Sometimes I am there. Sometimes we have a Saturday where I can't make it. I'll try to have one of my team members fulfill, but you can always email your questions within the Patreon community or email me, and we will be good from there. Once you're done with everything in freshman, you must opt out of it and go into the sophomore. Now, in the sophomore, like I said, we're going to talk about domestic entity reclassification. That's regarding your estate. We'll do the very same thing for a separate trust that we create called the trust enterprise. Why are we doing that? Why make an express trust that's foreign? It's on the zero file, on the record with the IRS, and why do a trust enterprise? Here's why. When you receive a specific EIN number for your foreign express trust, you cannot do any banking here within the continent of the United States or North America here. It can do business, it can own businesses, but it cannot do banking. So you're going to have to set up a U.S. fiduciary, some type of agent to do a work on behalf of that foreign express trust. And we call that the enterprise. So your enterprise will be the entity that you create to go and open up bank accounts, to have your monies from your job to be deposited into that bank account. We have to do it that way, okay? If you try to open up a bank account with your Foreign Express EIN number, eventually they will shut it down because there is no social security number attached to that EIN. Okay, you have to have an authorized representative to do banking here within the North American continent, here within the United States of America. They must have it. The banks must have that insurance to do their day-to-day banking on a day-to-day basis, right? If you understand fractional reserve banking, you know that there is a public side to your ledger and a private side to your ledger. There's an opening and close, and all of this pertains to the foreign exchange market and stock exchange. So they need a social security number attached to an EIN to do banking. That's why the Foreign Express Trust needs a trust enterprise to handle that aspect of it. Okay. Once again, you have 24/7 access to all of the videos in the sophomore section. And when you're done with that, you will then go into the junior. In the junior side, this is where you finalize everything that you're doing as far as putting the trust together. You will learn how to draft the express trust. You also will have to include what's called a deed, a promissory note. In trust law, a trust is invalid if it does not secure a deed to any property. It could be real property. It could be intellectual property, personal property. It has to have a deed to something. Otherwise, it is invalid. And when I say invalid, I mean it will pass. If it is invalid, it will pass the U.S. control test and the U.S. court test. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So you will need to have a note. And then when I say the note, what are we talking about? What collateral are we securing? Well, when you think about banking, a bank secures property with a note and they hold the deed until that note is fulfilled, and then they release the deed to the one who paid the note. For this particular thing, when we're talking about removing the IRS from drawing taxes upon you, it's because no one has claimed the birth certificate. No one has done that at all. If you want to know what that is, go to the 0% channel on YouTube and look at authenticating the birth certificate. Look at the entire process of what that is and how to do it and why to do it. Very, very important that you understand that, because that is a title, just like title to real property. So you must have a deed or a note to that title, which is your certificate of title, your birth certificate. You must have a deed or a note connected to it as the collateral, which has been given or gifted, conveyed to the Foreign Express Trust. So I show you how to do that. Next is a hold harmless agreement between you and the foreign trustee. They must be considered in writing that they have full they have the power to make substantial decisions of the trust. If you have a non-resident alien, someone who has no driver's license, no passport, no green card, they may have a student visa, that's it, and a valid foreign passport from their country, that's it, but nothing connecting them to the United States. You now have a real foreign trust, okay? There's talk out there that says if you have a specific 98 number to your trust, a 98 EIN number to your trust, then you're foreign. No, that's just a part of it. You must obtain a real foreign trustee. And we do have that service for you if you need it. But if you know someone that can be a legitimate foreign trustee for you, you can now make your trust completely foreign out of the jurisdiction of the United States. And the United States is located in the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia is a federal corporation that likes to spread its wings over to all of the other 50 countries, where the territory of California then becomes the state of California. The territory of New York then becomes the state of New York, right? And that's how they have merged in their internal revenue districts. So you have to have a foreign trustee. You do not want to pass the U.S. control test and the U.S. court test. That's a key element. You need a non-resident alien to be your foreign trustee. Now, the question is, if you have that person a part of your trust, can they now take over all of the assets and control everything? Well, in trust law, yes, the court will see that a trustee has the power to, is looked upon as the owner, right? As the manager. But this is where we must include what's called a plenipotentiary of power contract. Plenipotentiary of power contract. Have you ever heard this word? Plenipotentiary. Let's look up the definition. Plenipotentiary is a person, especially a diplomat, invested with the power, the full power of independent action on behalf of their government, typically a foreign country. Did you know your foreign express trust is looked upon as a foreign country? So when you have instituted a foreign trustee who then hires another individual to have plenipotentiary power to do a work on behalf of the foreign trustee, well, guess what? That foreign trustee can't do anything. It's given its jurisdiction to someone else. A lot of times that is going to be someone that you trust here in the United States of America. And guess what? That person can be you as well. What we do is we have the trust enterprise be that plenipotentiary agent. The very same one that opens the bank accounts. You're doing everything under the trust enterprise for who? The foreign express trust and its foreign trustee. That's how you keep them a part of your contract, and that's how you keep them out of your affairs. The best way to do it. You'll then learn how to put together a copyright notice that ties into your DBAs that you file with the county. And there's also going to be what's called the filing of your copyright depot. CopyrightDepot.com allows you to register and trademark any names that you do not want anyone to use. And if they do use it, they are subject to a schedule of fees that you institute and record in the county. And that information is going to be recorded and dispersed within over 177 countries. Okay, very important. We all know what they're doing with the omnibus, the government and the DTC, Depository Trust Company. We all know what they're doing with your birth certificate. The money is connected to that. That's called a certificated security. And we all know what they're doing with the uncertificated securities, such as the Social Security card. You get about 12 or 13 of those, and you get about 10 birth certificates. What are they doing with all those certificates? They are trading them. So if you place a copyright against that name, you can reduce and stop those tradings. You want to get to a point to where you have become able to build up enough business credit for you to survive on, so you can get away from using the personal credit for at least 7 years. That's usually the time frame that you need, the requirement to actually do a lawsuit in the county, so that way you can shut all that down. That's called a trust collapse. a trust collapse. And you can find that information by looking up UCC 8-112, a trust collapse. You're shutting down certificated securities and uncertificated securities. We will go over that as well. Nationality Declaration, very important. That's going to be a part of your trustee minutes. Remember in a previous video where I talked about nationality, under the Public Law 94-241, Section 302, you need to do a declaration of your nationality. Now, who do you do that with and how do you do it? That's learned in the junior course here. Okay. Once you're done with that, you go into the senior course down here. You go to the senior course and I show you how to do a couple of things. Number one, state injunction. Another word for injunction is a restraining order. We are trying to restrain public officials from doing what's called irreparable injury, where they violate the Constitution. For example, a lot of our success is coming from the people who have traffic tickets and citations and warrants and things of that nature. For example, if you are pulled over by a policeman because you were doing 25 miles faster than the speed limit, you didn't hurt anybody, you didn't injure anybody or damage any property around you. However, the officer decides to pull you over. Instead of giving you a fair warning, he decides to give you a citation. Now, on that citation, it says this is a summons to show up to court, right? So what he has done, he has complained against you, and he's also served you on the side of the road a public easement. He, in his mind, he's followed county policy. He thinks he has followed state policy, which he has. He has followed the procedures of District of Columbia, right? But he did not follow due process of the Constitution. He did not follow it. Let's go to Constitution here. Let's pull up the 1849 California Constitution. What do I mean by lawful due process? Lawful due process, I believe it is section 19. Section 19 here. This is in the Declaration of Rights, okay? It says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable seizures and searches shall not be violated, and no warrant, aka summons, shall issue, but on probable cause, right? The probable cause is he's witnessed you doing something wrong. But that probable cause must be supported by an oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons to be and things to be seized. Where is his affidavit under oath under penalty of perjury as to what he saw? Where is his affidavit of complaint, which is supposed to be approved by the clerk of court or magistrate or judge, whoever is available at that time, through his computer in his car to be attached to the summons, aka warrant, to issue to you? He's missing it. This is a unlawful due process. The Constitution says that you are due a lawful due process. So what exactly are they doing when it comes to procedures? They are instituting this. Constitution says that no bill of attainder or ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts shall ever be passed. So whatever code or statute he put on the warrant, aka summons, that is considered a bill of attainder or an ex post facto law. It comes after the Constitution. That statute or code comes after the Constitution, and it is being applied retroactively to the 1849 Constitution, and that is unlawful. So when you receive a ticket, If your injunction is in place, that is going to prevent irreparable injury. That whole incident is called irreparable injury. We want to prevent that. So when you properly file your injunction with the 4 legislative officers, the sheriff, the governor, the attorney general, and the chief justice, you will then be on what's called, and I know this sounds crazy, but you're on a specific list that the Sherifian Majesty, which is the sheriff, he puts you on this list called the Do Not Stop, Do Not Detain list. The officer is either going to know this by looking at your license plate or looking at the name on the valid ID that you give him. Up comes in his computer system, do not stop, do not detain, leave them alone. But that only applies if you did not injure anyone or any property. Okay? You are now going to be in the realm of equity law, of equity court, chancery court. You're no longer in the realm of at-law proceedings, Administrative Procedures Act of 1946. You're no longer going to be in that. So that's what the injunction does. We have some remedies and some proof of how that worked with traffic tickets inside of Patreon. Now, even though you file your injunction, they are still going to make you think that you are not on this list. Just understand that. They're probably going to act normal and say, hey, here's your ticket, even though they saw what they saw. Let me tell you what they're doing these days. I have a young man who has his injunction done in California, and he's had it in there for some time now. His first occurrence with them, they pulled him over for having a mobile phone. And you'll see this entire thing inside of Patreon, the video that we did. And I'll show you his ticket. I'll show you what the court said about it. It's all there. But I'll tell you now, they gave him a ticket for having operating a motor vehicle with the mobile phone in hand. And he was surprised to receive a ticket. He was thinking that they were just going to let him go and say, have a nice day, like I've had in my past experiences. But like I said, they're going to change and make you think you're not doing things correctly. So when we get the ticket violation, here it is. He got it in April of 2022. Here we are checking it in July 2022. And he's like, hey, I didn't get anything in the mail. Not even I need to show up where you're supposed to get this. Naturally, he goes down to the courthouse and they can't find anything under his name. They cannot find the citation number. They're saying, well, maybe the officer forgot to put it in there. You just have to wait until the officer comes and file it. And until he files it, we can't do anything. So no, you're supposed to do this within 30 days. The officers are supposed to do that if they have a legitimate ticket to give in, right? He doesn't have one. When you look up the citation number pulls up a whole nother person related to a whole nother case that was closed out 4 years prior to 2022. How does a fresh ticket print out a citation number that pertains to an older case, to an older person? It doesn't even pertain to our Patreon member here. It didn't pertain to him. So what we had him do was do an affidavit of denial, denying every single thing in that citation, and also stating that it doesn't apply to him because the information on there is incorrect. Case dismissed. They're doing things like that these days, or they just leave you alone. That's ultimately what you want. Okay, so let's move on. Now, you will also learn how to do proper discharge. There are a ton of people on YouTube talking about discharge with 1099As, with 1096s. Let me just clear this up right here, right now. For the services that we provide, we cannot accept a 1099A as payment for our services, expecting us to take that document, turn it into the IRS, and get payment. A 1099A says acquisition and abandonment of property. That cannot be used as a medium of exchange to receive payment, as valuable consideration because there was no valuable consideration on your part. We gave you valuable consideration, the information and a process, but there's nothing in exchange coming to us to collect. That is for banks to utilize when there is a debt existing already. Banks use 1099As and all of that when an existing debt is there. It's called acquisition or abandonment of property, and they mostly use it for real estate, especially in foreclosure. And then a 1099C is what goes to the person or the borrower who was foreclosed on. 1099A goes to the IRS, 1099B goes to the lender as their copy, and 1099C goes to the borrower. Key words: borrower and lender, borrower and lender, borrower and lender. We are not lenders. We are not registered with the Federal Reserve System. We're not national associations as banks under the National Banking Act of 1863. That doesn't apply to us, and that doesn't apply to car dealerships. Okay, you cannot turn in 1099As to car dealerships in exchange for as a medium exchange. You cannot do that. Those forms are used for trust to use. A lender is most likely always under a trust. Their trust has an EIN number, and that EIN number will be placed on that 1099A as the trust. And then the borrower's EIN number will be on there as well, because they're going to acquire their property for not fulfilling a promissory note. We do not do promissory notes for you as a medium exchange in case you default. We don't do anything like that. And you need to know that dealerships do not do that. They may tell you, yes, they accept 1099As, but that is a sales tactic to get you in the door. They will kick that out the door, off the table, and say, well, here's the deal that we can give you. And then you're probably going to go ahead and get the deal because you told people that you can go to the dealership and you're going to come out with a car using 1099A, and you're ashamed to show the people that you didn't get the car with 1099A, but you're going to say you did. There's a lot of people out there doing that. I want you to be aware of that. Okay, so I will show you how to use 1099As and 1096s with what's called a Treasury check. It's called Treasury gifts. The government allows the people to do that, to discharge an existing debt. It takes at least 90 days for a debt to become a part of the national public debt. Now, it is not guaranteed that they accept this. Okay, they apply it and accept it when it's in their best interest. I will show you. Go to Title 31, the banking title, USC 3113, accepting gifts. It says to provide the people of the United States with an opportunity to make gifts to the United States government to be used to reduce the public debt. The Secretary of the Treasury may accept for the government a gift of money made only on the condition that it be used to reduce the public debt. Now, how do you do this? How do you do that? I show you how to do it. And I do it to where there is an overpayment. And that money has to come back to who? The trust. And because I have a DBA that says that my trust is doing business as my first middle last name, guess what? When they send a check out to my first middle last name, they're also sending a check out to the trust because those are one and the same. And I have a copyright on my name. And I show you that as well. Now, they do it when they feel like it, right? They do it when they feel like it. Look at this right here. It says the secretary and the administrator is the administrator of GSA, General Service Administration. That's the department that issues SBA loans. And that's also the department that deals with bonds to get you out of jail when it comes to habeas corpus. So it says the Secretary of Treasury and the administrator of GSA each may reject a gift under this section when the rejection is in their interest of the government. So they do it when they feel like it. Now, these Treasury gift checks that you make with 1099A and 1096, they cannot be typed. If it is typed, you must provide a CPA license number on there. Okay. Anything that's done electronically has to be coming from that type of licensing department. So I suggest that you order these off of the IRS website and you get very familiar with a typewriter. The typewriter is going to make the ink bleed through the carbon paper on the back side. Remember, the red form, 1099A, goes to the IRS. The form behind it, 1099B, is your copy, and then 1099C is given to the borrower so that they can write it off on their taxes. In this case, that would be you as well. So that's just discharge. Now, there is another form of discharge. Let me go back. That Treasury gift check, that's not something you do one time. That is something that you're doing every week to really get it to work. Now, because we don't know exactly when they process these things or when it's in their best interest, the National Bank Act of 1863 tells us when is a good time for them to accept and apply these things. And that usually is the first quarter, the entire month of the first quarter. So each quarter, we have 4 quarters in a year. So 4 times a year, you're sending these things in, like one every week, or you can do one every day. Now, let's say I have a debt of $20,000. Well, you have to understand we're in a fractional reserve banking system. So that means it's $20,000 on the public side, but there's also an amount on the private side. There's 2 ledgers. Remember, they take your note or your application and they do fractional reserve lending and they multiply that thing to where it goes up at least 10 times. So you should have $200,000 of debt on the private side. You got to think about both sides to discharge, not just one. So if I have a $20,000 car note that I want to discharge, I got to keep in mind, I need to send in Treasury gift checks that exceeds or is at least $200,000. And that's what I've done. I've continuously sent these checks that you can make as uncertificated securities. The money is just coming directly out of that uncertificated security account. A lot of words here, but that's what's happening on the back end. You have to close out both sides. Now, my very best form of discharge is accord and satisfaction. I love accord and satisfaction. In fact, attorneys use it all day, every day in courts to make settlements. Accord and satisfaction is the actual method of discharge that allows you to sue a lender or a bank if they breach the contract. And it's very simple. It comes from UCC 3-311, and that law has been codified in every state's legislation. It works like this. You send in a bona fide dispute, disputing anything that you possibly can that you are in a disagreement with in regards to your loan. Is there something in the promissory note that you don't like or don't agree with? Interest rate, payment structure, whatever. Also in that letter, you're going to say, look, if you can't even answer this question for me about my disagreement, tell me where I can send you an accord and satisfaction to close out this loan, because I don't want to continue in this loan with you. They're either going to respond and say everything is correct, or they're not going to respond. But they never tell you where they want you to send the check. That means you have full authority to continue sending checks to the same public address that they've put out there, which is the normal payment processing center. So you send in a money order, cashier's check, or a regular personal check in the normal monthly payment amount, right? And on the face of that check, it has specific wording. It has a restrictive endorsement on there, on the front and the back. They cash it, it's over. It's done. the entire obligation is rendered null and void. It is paid off. Now, they have an out. They can refund you that check within a 90-day period. So I tell you guys, month one, send in the check, let them cash it. Month two, send in the check, let them cash it. And month three, send in the check, let them cash it. Come day 91, you send them a letter saying, hey, I sent in these checks. I believe the balance is now zero. Can you please confirm this within 14 days as a statement of accounting? And they'll come back and say, you still owe money. You got them. You can now open up a lawsuit and file a bill of complaint for breach of contract. And I kid you not, when you file and provide all the proof of everything you've done, that bank will get an attorney so fast to send you an offer for a settlement is not even funny. Accord and satisfaction is the best discharge method anyone has. I cannot stress that enough. I don't care what the loan amount is. I don't care what type of obligation it is. Now, you cannot do it with private lenders. They actually gave you money, but you can do it with banks because they didn't give you any valuable consideration. What do I mean by that? You apply for a loan, you put out an application, and you provided your social security number on that with your signature. They took your application and they monetized it for 10 times the amount or even more. And then that money comes to the bank directly from the Federal Reserve because they opened their checkbook and wrote a check and give it to the bank. And the bank receives all these credits for doing that. So you've just given valuable consideration to the bank. Then the bank will wire the money directly to you in your account, thinking that it came from the bank's vaults itself as their own capital gains. And they can't do that. So you're the only one that didn't receive valuable consideration. You gave consideration, but you didn't get anything. See, at the escrow table, this process happens when it comes to buying and selling for real estate. It happens all the time. And what's supposed to happen is they're supposed to give you a blank check or a check in the amount of whatever you need. So that way you can sign it and give it over to the seller and let them deposit it. But no, you don't sign checks, do you? You just sign promissory notes and escrow paperwork. That's what happens. No valuable consideration has been given. Now, let's move on to passports. That is discharge, okay? Passport application. Show you how to fill that out correctly according to the acts and conditions of the passport application. They tell you to provide a explanatory statement if you are not a U.S. citizen, right? And you're not. You're not a U.S. citizen. You're not a state citizen. You're not a U.S. national. You're not an American national. All of those are traps, one and the same, and you will be under the District of Columbia if you put that down on your application. So this tier will teach you injunction, discharge, and how to fill out the passport correctly so that way you can get the proper delineation of your nationality status with the National Registry System. And you will also have access to those Q&A webinars that we talked about. I have provided other tiers here. If you have debt collectors hounding you, I'll show you how to get rid of that in this tier here. Here's the tier for accord and satisfaction. This gives you more case laws. Okay, this one gives you more case laws to add into your bill of complaint when you're ready to sue the bank. If you ever wanted to create what's called an unincorporated association and merge that with your trust enterprise, you can do that. This is a type of entity that does not have to pay state dues just to exist. I think in California, LLCs and corporations have to pay a standard $800 regardless if they make $1. just to exist. Most people say it's expensive to live in states like California, Nevada, Hawaii, and New York. But if you know processes like this, it becomes very cheap to live there. I was there. And I go back and forth. So you can do it. Okay. This entire system here is designed to come together as a people. We'll put together our express trust to obtain zero tax liability. We even talk about foreign driver's licenses. You can have one. Okay. Let me just kind of go into that quickly. In every charter, in every state's DMV charter, it says that you don't have to necessarily have to use a state driver's license to drive. You can use a foreign driver's license as long as it is paired with an international driving permit that allows you to bring that foreign license into the United States of America or any other country. We show you how to get that. Now, do not take your current driver's license, if you're using it, and turn it in. If you turn it in, they will suspend the license. You never know. What if you lose your foreign driver's license and you have to temporarily use your older one, the state driver's license, just to get you around? And you turn it in and it shows suspended. Or you turn it in, you don't have it, so you just tell the officer, you can look me up by my name, and he shows that it's suspended in his computer. Now you're in trouble. So just let it expire. Once it is expired, keep it at home, leave it there, get your foreign ID, and move on from there. Now, all of your names are going to be listed what's inside of the state injunction anyway, but always remember to take precautions. So that's going to be it. That's how you are going to start the membership selection. And once you're in it, all you do is click on your selection and just start watching the videos that are available in that selection. Okay. With that being said, that is everything that I have for you in regards to how to start this process. Remember, if you want to become a private client, please contact my assistant at 951-394-1775. We'll get you started. We'll do the entire process for you. And we'd be glad to work with you. All right. Thank you for joining, and I will see you next time.